question comes like, obviously, my expertise comes from AI data. So while we are discussing like the technology, it's important for our viewers to understand. So obviously, when we are talking about technology, we are talking about banking. There's always like, data is always in the center, and RBA for that matter must be collecting data from various, source systems, various banks. So from the data engineering perspective, what exactly you have done in terms of architecture, in terms of collections?
We're going back into the payment systems. For example, I'm talking in terms of the Reserve Bank. The Reserve Bank actually maintains online accounts of every banking accounts.
Right.
In Australia, there could be around somewhere. I have no direct measure, but we know roughly around 75 million accounts or so.
26 million people, so probably one person has maybe 3-4 accounts. So you can.
Yeah, myself have 4 accounts. You can imagine, roughly around that sort of number of accounts and all. And you got to have an actual measure of how much money you have in your account. So when your transaction comes in, whether it has to be accepted or rejected. But at the same time, this data is only having in terms of the processing, but it doesn't go anywhere. You can't actually go and say, I'm an RBA, we can get the actual data, access to the data. That data is that percent. In terms of the architecture of that is quite complex and quite.
So I'm trying to understand, like, RBA get access to all the data points from all the banks, or they're like,
the banks continuously updates the account status.
Okay.
So all the payment that comes in, you got to have an actual how much you have in your account.
Right.
Otherwise, the transaction becomes invalid because it could be in a split second. Even by mistake itself, I give you a check and then I also transfer money.
Yeah.
And both of them may coincide, and one money transfer may actually bounce the other check, or the vice versa.
Right.
I can't access that money anymore because I've lost the what is the ultimate amount. Okay, but that's about the payment core engine and so on. And at the same time, there is the Reserve Bank is also the bank for the government. All the ATO, all the services that is back to the central Indian services and all. There are 10,000 employees and others who access that account through the bank. And RBA itself is a bank.
Right.
For the government services and billions of dollars. Know about this, right? Exactly, billions of dollars. You go to a central link service and you need urgent payment, and you are given straight away, whether it's $1,000 or $3,000, it doesn't matter. But that also actually is RBA's bank, right, which is different from the other banks who do the transfer or something like. Anyway, so there are the bank payment systems group who actually manage those access accounts and all that sort of thing, and do the payment processing and services kind of thing.
So we are talking about data. And the next step is obviously AI. So AI is built on top of the data itself. So what sort of modeling and other things you have seen in RBA where probably your architecture allowed that model building to be part of the process itself?
Okay, now let me dive a little more into this one. All the payment processing, this is actually a service to the banking industry. But when it comes to the Reserve Bank, when it determines we call the interest rate.
Yeah.
But it's not just the interest rate, but it's also RBA sells the bonds. And when the crisis came, with the global financial crisis, overnight, $260 billion had to be given to the banks because banks were getting busted kind of thing in 2008. Or during the COVID, where millions of dollars have to be distributed across so people can still get money without doing work and assistance and all that sort of thing. Anyway, the Reserve Bank actually analyzes thousands of different types of data. And there are two, one is the individual transaction and all that sort of thing, which is one side of the equation, which is not our real data processing. The major data processing happens is what's happening in the trading world.
Right, okay.
So all the data that comes about from, say, New York Stock Exchange or London Stock Exchange or, Thomson Reuters and all that sort of areas and all, that you got to have real-time understanding of what's happening. Like suddenly Trump says something and things change overnight and trading, people sell bonds or people sell shares or all that sort of thing that happens overnight. So one group of data analysts who actually, they are all economic analysts. They look at the situation, they look at the volatility of what the market side.
So what I'm understanding is basically you are not only data analysis, you're also putting natural language processing as part of the engine where you are analyzing what is happening in the world and what is the impact of that. And obviously derivatives data, what you have suggested, is just always there, like, of course. So RBA is doing much more than that,
Yeah. Yes, as I said, it could be what's happening with data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics in terms of what's happening about the people and processor who is having job or who is not having job and all that sort of things. And then it comes to the trading transactions and, wide spectrum of data that comes about. How much of, trading that's happening between the natural resources and gas and sudden stoppage because of the tariffs and all that sort of things. It's a very complex world.
Yeah, of course.
And there are more than 650 data analysts, as opposed to a few other organizations who started in the AI journey and they need data scientists. The Reserve Bank had 650 data analysts and all that sort of thing. And they do different types of data modeling. Economic data modeling. What's happening is you go to the Christmas period, people go mad and sales that. You got to understand how much people's capacity in terms of buying or where they do have or not. All these variations of the data and models and all. That's also is model and all. When you aggregate multiple facets of the data, that gives you the status of what actually happening in the country. Some of them are in the macro sense of at this moment or this day or over a period of month or over a period of 3 months and that gets not just reported, it also gets aggregated and modeled. So coming to natural language processing is part of, but not the main thing. But yes, there are NLP or natural language processing is an important part of this analysis. When people do the sentiment analysis, it comes from business banking world or it could be from public and all. That also gets analyzed across and summarized to get what is the impact into the overall economic health of the situation. It becomes critical when there is Iran-Iraq war, Iran-Israel war. Everyone panics, and what is its impact? What's happening across the space? And what economic decisions or what political decisions are being taken? They are summarized across in terms of getting some aspects of it. But then the other side of it is what's happening in the aggregation of all this status and the data and all that to put an overall context and the model. It's quite complex. I'm not an economist. I can actually make it feel, but I had had major interactions with multiple various economic areas and studies and all to get a realistic view of what really happens.
No, great. So I think before we move to the rapid fire, probably enterprise architecture. Many new people who want to become enterprise architects, and you have been in the journey for a long time. What is that you want to tell them that what they should do in terms of becoming the best of the best?
Okay, I mean, let me go at the very highest level. It's a very fascinating term in terms of the enterprise architecture. Now, although it was interesting to start that they always looked at in terms of the technology and the processes and how the technology started. So this was the TOGAF and that sort of world they evolved, and which is good, and discipline and all that. And then people started realizing that technology per se is is actually helping business and business processes. Technology is not it could be a key player, but not the ultimate.
Right.
You got to understand various aspects of the business processes and business strategy. How do you decide the business strategy? And so business architecture became a side part of the whole equation in terms of the business processes and business strategies. But then you can't make a strategy in terms of the realization without having capability or the processing capacity to make that happen. And AI came into the real world in this situation as a simple thing. How do you make customers happy? A customer in a banking world, for example, customer will be happy when whether they call the call center or they call at the desk of the branches and all that sort of thing. All this natural interaction that's happening with what is the ultimate intent of the customer. So you got to aggregate or get help. So the things like chatbots, things like all this data, let's say, what is my situation? How does the bank know of this thing? How do you get a personal view of what's really happening with this person? Just for instance, like, the bank is giving me whatever amount of loan there is that, and if I just suddenly retire, my source of income is not coming anymore, so they can't create a persona thinking, oh, yeah, that's fine. So they need to also understand that situation has changed. That doesn't mean this person doesn't have other assets or other, the bonds and other things and all those. So anyway, so how do you create a persona depending upon the time and situation and the intent of the person or the customer? So natural language processing and data or real-time understanding of all these to give you help or guide. But still, the customer has their own intent, what they want to do. I may have $1 million in my bank, but I don't want to do anything with it, is one thing. But I want to do something else. I may buy a property, or I may not have anything else. So they can suggest, do you want to see these options? Do you want to create alternate scenario, this, that? But then again, at the same time, there should not be great. The banks, or it doesn't matter, in the banking world, all that, what happens is they need to look at their own shareholder and their own interest in terms of making money rather than exploiting the customer. So you got to have a balance. This is where the ethics, or this is where everything else comes into the picture. So
great. So what I'm understanding from the architect, you are suggesting like business strategy is on the top, and then obviously the tech strategy comes as like following the business strategy.
Yes, but then but there's various transition that happens where you actually help them strategize their business. You have to understand some of the business and business processes and the goals, but if they can't, they can't unilaterally decide a strategy. You become a partner in terms of making the strategy fulfillment as a strategy. I can have, I want to do this, that as a business. How am I going to realize? How much money do I have? Or what are the consequences if this one fails? Or if we start this journey and then it's like, the ore mining, and suddenly there is this tariff and no one wants to buy, and they don't want to invest in the iron ore or natural resources of any other kind. Then your strategy, what was a dream, but doesn't actualize it. So you got to understand what are the consequences of what sort of thing, what sort of strategic approach they need to take, and at the same time, what are the new opportunities that's coming in, and how these things can be put together. Then there are other areas where it becomes really interesting, and it's more important to realize that we have everything else sounds great, but our legal processes are so convoluted.
Right. Yeah.
Because the legal procedures and legal rules and all that sort of thing becomes a bottleneck. So how do you ascertain? You can actually fast track these legal processes through other means, including processes and these things can be helped. Or the accountants, they take long time to assimilate and this, that, and make, this is,
Right, there's many factors, as you said, right?
So many aspects where there are some opportunities, where there are some cautions, and where there are some kind of leaping ahead.
Right.
Where you can say, look, you can do all these things, but can you prove that one? So you got to, this is where the things, let's do pilot of this. And every organization jumps in terms of some pilot here, pilot there, and all that. And now that the whole thing comes in is, you're doing the pilot, you're getting the data, and you have rightful access to the data. But how do you actually secure the data, privacy, confidentiality, and so enterprise architects come into multitude of the world, and I'm not telling that they know everything, but governance, policies, and structure. Have you done this? What are the security aspects of it? What are the sensitivity part of it? Where you just privacy rules, or in European world the GDPR or other. So everything has its place, and enterprise architecture has the whole overall governance side of the equation in terms of the policy, structure, strategies, and everything.
Perfect. And this is the perfect time for us to basically go for the final segment, which is going to be rapid fire. So we'll go through that one. So the rapid fire, right? So the first question is the biggest myth about enterprise architecture in one sentence.
It's jack of all trades, master of nothing.
So one tool or methodology you can't live without.
It's a very interesting question, because
is it ChatGPT?
ChatGPT is only a very narrow segment of the world now. There are lots of, when you go to a car mechanic, if you ask them one tool, they can't tell you which one tool. Maybe they may say that.
So no one tool.
There is no one tool.
Not one tool. Okay. So cloud, AI, or analytics, which will have the biggest impact in the next 5 years, according to you?
It's AI with analytics.
That's awesome. The best book, podcast, or resources every architect should know.
There is no single best book, but this is very interesting. There is, if you have the intent, there are things coming. We're literally keeping up. I have to spend almost a couple of hours a day to keep up with what's really happening, what books and what things. And if you tap into the resources, there are plenty. But do you have the time to read everything? Is that no? You've got to get and sometimes you get a summary of what actually is being said by some specialist.
Right. Right, so there's not one resource, right? So multiple. So last question is, if you could implement one change in the tech industry tomorrow, what would that be?
Tech industry, keep up to date with what's happening in the industry, because what I've seen over the years, there is nothing which says that this is your lifetime. It's only for the transition period, and by then there will be something else that comes in. You have AI, everyone thinks, oh, okay. And then everybody has that one. It's like the warfare. How do you excel something with the new toy?
No, perfect. I think with that note, I would like to really thank you, Mr. Jyoti, for being part of our podcast, and wish you all the best for your retirement, and probably we can catch up have another episode later.
Yeah, but retirement maybe from active income doesn't necessarily mean retirement from
Yeah, that's true.
the world. So, in fact, I do more research, more studies now that I've got more time. And who knows, I might actually explore different things, different options.
No, thanks a lot, Mr. Jyoti, for being here and giving insights to your journey to our viewers. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Sandeep, and actually good to get this session to have a real exchange of ideas and opinions.